Hello, everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is September 8th, 2020. Exciting date. This is around our 3-year anniversary, like that. We haven't been very consistent. Yeah, we're close to it. Started around September. I don't know when that is. I should find out when that is. I should. But regardless of details that I haven't, we have a special guest with us today. Michael. I'm going to last name.
I'm interested. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Grenade. Mm-hmm. I'm lucky and get these right, but names are guess. But of Rock Manor Games, he's going to be talking with us about the work he does at Rock Manor Games and work he does on various board games and tabletop stuff. But we do have a full topic of topicals to talk about today.
Schedule of topics.
That too. I guess we'll probably start with Namiji. It's a board game by Funfair, who's supposed to be set in their the Tokaido universe of games. So that's interesting. Then we do have to talk about Throne of Eldraqne, the Magic set. We're not diving into the actual set yet. We're talking about a product that they're putting out that is worse at their things, I think. We'll talk about that.
Interesting.
We'll finish up by talking playing games with D&D and a new book about Pathfinder new book and tales of the weird sci-fi time travel and having their also. Before we go to some of our regular segments. So, why don't we start with talking to Michael? Because that's list. So, Michael, start with what do you do at Rock Manor?
I guess. I'm the founder, CEO, DO, all trades, man of many hats there. I've designed games we've released, but we've started publishing a few as well. So. I've helped develop the ones we've published. We've found them and played them and sort of molded them well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you run your business, you have to do a lot of different things. It's hard to put it all in one box, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of hats.
Yeah.
Well, that gets into a topic that I guess start out with because the good segue is how's it been running your own company, found and getting into all these hats that maybe you weren't into.
Well, I guess I should start off by saying I've done it before. I haven't had like a W-2 real job since 2010. Mm-hmm. So, although I haven't been doing board games that long, I have been running my own businesses since then. Sold a few, done a few that. So, I'm used to the many hats. That isn't the biggest surprise for me when it came to the board gaming space. Actually, compared to the computer stuff I did, there's things that I like better about it. I used to, I've owned a hosting company where when you get a support ticket, customer service issue, you need to fix it within the next 5 minutes or you're in trouble, and board games, if there's a problem and you get an email, if you respond in 24 hours, that's considered pretty fast, about somebody not getting on Kickstarter or something. So the customer service end is actually a lot nicer and easier. But it is a different set of hats that I have to wear, The thing I'm baddest at or need to work the most at, I think, is getting our games into more retailers and supporting the sort of brick and mortar part of the industry. We are in distribution, but I want to cultivate those relationships and work with those stores as best I can to facilitate, them making more money and thus me making more money.
Yeah.
So I went to GAMA for the first time this year. And I guess it was successful. I don't know. It's a weird conference compared to everything else I've been to. So.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I've seen Brass Empire at least one store before. That's one that's definitely shown up in some places, but that's one that you've had out for a while now.
Yeah, that's definitely our oldest game. So, it's probably the second printing we did of it. That's sitting there because we did when Maximum Apocalypse came out, we had more Brass Empires as well. And the second printing was actually like twice as big as the first printing. Because the first printing was basically like me just doing this as like a side thing, like side hustle just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just this week I was up at my friendly local game store and they had a couple copies. They had like 2 copies of Set of Watch, which is our most recent game that sort of hit retail. So it's the first time I've ever seen my game in my store, sort of thing, which is cool. So I snapped a picture of it and put it on Instagram.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's it's you've gotten steps in a direction that you wanted to go in, and that's great. You're getting your game out there.
Exactly.
So, what made you want to get into the tabletop industry?
Well, I've been a lifelong gamer for sure. So, I played Magic when I was in 6th grade, and when I couldn't afford to keep up with it by mowing lawns anymore, I started playing the glut of other collectible card games that came out at the time. So, like, Jihad, the vampire game, I had that. I had the BattleTech collectible card game. So I dabbled in that. Then when I hit high school and stuff, I didn't have as much time for tabletop gaming, and I switched to video games through high school and college. And then after college, I was doing I had some indie gaming, like video game side of stuff. I had a website that covered that stuff. So I was going to, conferences like GDC and PAX and stuff. And I was out of PAX East and walking around, and my legs were hurting, standing up in all those booths with cameras and interviewing people. All the video game booths, none of them have chairs or anything. Sometimes you can find a beanbag chair, but you're basically walking around a lot. And my friend and I were tired, so we walked to sort of the back of that Air Force hangar. And there were a bunch of tabletop games, and we sat down and we played one. And it was a deck building game called Ascension. And, I never played, obviously I played Magic in these collectible card games where you do deck build. But I'd never played like a game where deck building is the game, sort of thing. And I fell in love with it. And that's sort of what inspired. So then I played like every deck building game that you could find. And I couldn't find anything that gave me the player interaction that I wanted, that I was used to from some of those CCGs from olden days.
Yeah.
So I started making my own game with my friend. That's what spawned Brass Empire. And that was successful enough to make it be a thing and be created. And it was such a fun process. I just started doing it. The next game I was working on, Max Apocalypse, I started just working on the side again. It took me 2 years, and I started, every time I'd go to these conventions, I'd bring it with me and play it with people and just sort of get it out there. And then it was a lot more successful than I anticipated. And that's what I would say sort of launched me into sticking with it as long as I have.
Mm-hmm.
There were some other life things that sort of facilitated me giving it time like that. Like I was selling my other business. I had my second kid, and I was going to be a stay-at-home dad when my wife changed jobs. So during all of that, it's like, oh, well, I'll just keep working on this board game stuff, sort of as a part-time job thing, because it's doing okay, and I'll be the primary caregiver, which is going to save us a bunch of money.
Yeah. And
I had the luxury of doing that because I sold my computer, my consulting and IT business. So I didn't need to go run out and find a real job right away. So during that year or two when I was doing that, I sort of just kept building the infrastructure and building the business, and it's been doing better and better, thankfully.
Cool. I did notice that, to kind of switch a little bit of gears here, you did do a Kickstarter for Set of Watch. How's been your experience with Kickstarter? And would be that something that you would use for more stuff in the future, or is that just like...
Yeah, as a smaller indie publisher, I would say Kickstarter is the only reason my company exists. Mm-hmm. We don't have the funds to... and the capital to like just bring a game to market, like some of the bigger publishers do, or even some of the bigger indie guys who have moved on from Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We don't have the power to do that. We're certainly a lot smaller than Simon and companies like that use Kickstarter all the time. And that's really where the bulk of our business is. So, I plan to use Kickstarter as long as as long as it makes financial sense. And right now, since it's, 65% of our revenue, we're not going to drop it anytime soon.
Yeah.
So it's a really important part of our business. I mean, for better or worse, Kickstarter in the board gaming industry has sort of become the website you go to find out about new releases for board games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's Board Game Geek, there's these other websites that cover board gaming news, and obviously there's YouTube channels that cover games. But I would argue that the way to really check the stuff that's on the horizon in the board game industry, is Kickstarter. So, for better or worse, I think that's the website to use. And as a result of that, we're going to continue using it for the foreseeable future. I mean, we're working on a game now that will be on Kickstarter in November. And it was shown at Gen Con, like we've been building buzz for it. But we take the Kickstarter process very seriously, and we take, the game's been done since the summer, but we take 3 or 4 months just to prepare for the Kickstarter, get all the reviews in line, do everything we need to do to be successful on Kickstarter, because the competition on Kickstarter has become even, a lot, grows and grows every year, obviously. So you need to take it seriously.
Now, how have you dealt with having some success at Kickstarter? Like when you have a big successful campaign, I know that sometimes that can be a little bit of a problem when you're like overly successful than what you planned.
Yes.
Have you encountered a lot of that, and then how have you dealt with that?
So there is a lot of planning that goes into a Kickstarter. The first Kickstarter I did, where it was Brass Empire, and it was just like a side project. Profit margins and things like that didn't matter as much. It's like, as long as the game existed and I got to my backers and I wasn't out a lot of money from my pocket directly, that was fine. So I don't think any money was really made on Brass Empire, at least the first print run. It was just sort of like, oh, the Kickstarter paid to have it be made and shipped, because shipping is very, expensive.
Yeah.
And I would say the big thing I learned between Brass Empire, I think you learn a little bit every time you do a Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, the important thing is to make sure not too many of these things bite you in the ass, sort of thing. So it's like, you're always going to make mistakes. No one's perfect. It's a matter of like knowing that there's all these mistakes you could make and mitigating your risk and making sure you make as few of them as possible. So the first time out, I would say I didn't know enough about board game manufacturing, and I paid way too high a price per unit on the first Brass Empire. Okay. Some of that was the number that I printed. Some of that was trying to put all the best things in it without really having the profit margins to do it, and not knowing the retail side of things, like with how much profit margin stores need to make and things. So the original Brass Empire and the original print run wasn't even really feasible, in stores. Like, if I sold it to a store so they could make money, I was losing money basically.
Yeah.
And then Maximum Apocalypse, my second game, I would say the big pitfall I fell into that one was I priced the game out really well for what it was on day one.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was so surprisingly successful. Like, it had this really odd trend of just like, people always say like, oh, you get a bunch of backers in the beginning, you get a bunch of backers at the end in Kickstarter. Well, that's true if you're sort of known. But if you're sort of constantly being discovered and you're sort of like on the rise and you're a smaller person, you can have, like, I had a linear sort of line in the middle of Maximum Apocalypse where like we weren't flatlining, we were like constantly gaining people. And then the end was like a real exponential curve. And as a result of that, you unlock a lot of stretch goals. And a lot of stretch goals make your board game heavier and more expensive to produce. So then all the numbers that you advertised on day one of your 30-day Kickstarter about, when you've only done a $20,000 Kickstarter, you don't expect to do like $125,000 on your second.
Yeah.
So that growth between the first and second game, I mean, it was still successful. We priced the game well enough. And what we did is we basically took all the stretch goals out and made a separate SKU and sort of like a mini expansion that we sold at stores. And that's how we sort of fixed that problem. Like, we had to do that sort of after the fact. So that was the one thing we learned on that one. And then on Set a Watch, which was my first small game that I published of somebody else, I listened to my fulfillment center that I've been using for all my other games where I've never had problems with customs and EU shipments and everything. because obviously they've done a million campaigns and I'm not their only client. And all my games were heavier before, so we always shipped to hubs, and there were never any issues. But with this campaign, with Set a Watch being as small as it was, sort of like a tiny epic size, they said, oh, we fulfill the tiny epic games all the time. It's a lot simpler and cheaper to bring it all to 1 or 2 hubs instead of all these different hubs around the world and ship out from there. So as a result of that, the logistics of that, and I think as a result of like Brexit and some of the crackdowning of EU and taxes, a bunch of games got caught in the EU for customs. And we've honored what we've said on our page, and we paid back all those customs. But it's not the financial payment of the customs, like I could live with that. It's the time and energy that goes into responding to all those issues, managing the spreadsheet, then making the payments. That's been a nightmare. So even though it may have saved us money in the long run by paying for some of these customs and some getting their fine and everything, like the headache and time and effort in dealing with it was a huge mistake. So I would never advise that, or I would never do that again personally with our fulfillment centers. So I think you learn a little something all along the way, and there's a lot of pitfalls. Another big pitfall that I just never do anymore is, I'm sure you guys have seen how some people charge shipping on Kickstarter. Yeah. And some people, that's awful. So I think one of the big things that really hurt me with Maxim, I think, is I charge shipping in Kickstarter, and Kickstarter takes their fee, and maybe they take more or less than a pledge manager. I mean, that's not the big issue. I think the big issue that people never talk about is that money you're collecting for shipping is going towards unlocking stretch goals, unless you really planned out accordingly. So when you're giving me an extra $10 for shipping, that $10 isn't, I'm probably losing money on that $10 I'm charging you for shipping, so I'm subsidizing it. And then that extra money is unlocking stretch goals faster, which is making my game cost more, and you can get into this bad spiral of your margins are just terrible. So I always charge shipping in the pledge manager now. So I at least know that everything being pledged on Kickstarter is sort of going towards the game and my profit margin, and just the cost of the good and the margin on the good. And as your print run gets larger, you can put more stuff into the box. And I keep it strictly for that, because I think from a planning perspective, it just avoids that major pitfall in my opinion.
That's a really interesting pitfall that you can kind of encourage. I didn't even think about that one, that you can put that shipping in where it puts it makes a difference. That's a very interesting angle for that.
Yeah, because Kickstarter doesn't delineate, if you pledge $50 for a game and then it's $10 shipping, that's $60 towards the campaign on Kickstarter. It doesn't matter that $10 for shipping is probably costing me $14, $15, for that size of game. Yeah. And I'm just eating 5 of it into my thing. So it's actually compounding the issue, because you're subsidizing the shipping, but that extra money is unlocking stretch goals, which is making your games more.
Wow.
Right.
Joe, did you have a question you wanted to add in here? I'll give you a chance. It looks like
not at this point.
Okay. All right. So you said now that your company is not just creating, you're also publishing. Is there types of games that you don't want to go into, or are you kind of just open-ended to whatever you guys can come up with on with you, or what is interesting enough to, or are you strictly taking to board games, card games, and stuff, or would you diversify, because tabletop is pretty wide?
Right. Yeah. Well, so I will say that so far we have everything that we have in our pipeline to be published is from things that I had personal relationships with people. Mm-hmm. I don't want a bunch of people sending us submissions or anything, because I admit that I'm 100% a bottleneck, and we are not big enough to publish. We can. I mean, the most games we've ever published in a year is 2. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping to increase that to maybe 3 or 4, but I do not see it being more than 3 or 4 anytime soon. I would say that. So I wouldn't say we're looking for anything in particular, because we're really not looking for stuff in general. As I've been working on this business and growing it, I mean, we have every game that could possibly come out for next year is already in development and in art production already for next year. And I'm designing a game now that will probably be out in 2 to 2.5 years, because I just finished the first prototype and I've sort of been iterating on it. The core rules aren't changing, so it's sort of getting locked into what it is. And I mean, that's how long taking a game from that sort of phase. So you think about if you got a submission from a designer, they're gonna have a prototype which is pretty finished and pretty solid. But I'm still gonna want to do development work on it, theme work, and art production. So, and that's gonna take at least a year. So, that you need to make sure you have stuff in the pipeline. But our pipeline, me being a bottleneck, is already pretty backed up. So please don't submit anything to us unless you're a very patient person. I'm reworking with some of the designers, like the designer that did Set a Watch. He's sort of a local guy. He lives about 40 minutes away from me. So we've been getting together weekly to go over expansion content for Set a Watch and play through it. And I've been working on my game that I'm building, and he's sort of going to build a sister game in the same world. So we're working like a sci-fi sort of IP that we're going to build together. He's a huge sci-fi nut. Like any show, movie, sci-fi thing ever, I've never been able to stump him. He's seen it like all.
Wow.
I wanted to make a game in a sci-fi universe, and he sort of had an idea for his own game. So I was like, well, dude, we should make our games side by side, and they should be in the same world with the same sci-fi story sort of thing.
Okay.
So we've got sort of stuff in the planning stages even, games that don't exist yet, that are still years out. So I wouldn't say we're big enough to take open submissions like some of these other companies, that have grown to be bigger, Pandasaurus, which had success with Dinosaur Island, where they're now taking a lot more submissions and publishing things. We're still very much a small indie company. I mean, I hope we get to that point someday. But every game that we're publishing or plan to publish has sort of a unique story like that. I mean, and as far as branching out, I know nothing about RPGs and role-playing games. I've never played any RPG outside of video games. I've never played a tabletop RPG. So I know I could never make one. Mm-hmm. But Maximum Apocalypse inspired a fan to make an RPG. And when he sent me what he had been working on, I don't know RPGs, but I knew enough to know that the sheer volume of stuff and reading through it, that the time and effort that put into it was pretty immense, that I immediately sent it over to another friend I'd met at a con who I knew played RPGs a lot, to look over it and be like, is this a thing? And he was like, yeah, this is a pretty meaty RPG. So, one of the games we're publishing is we're going to have a Maximum Apocalypse RPG, and it's made by a fan of our board game.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And that just happened because of a, serendipitous line of events.
Yeah.
But obviously that's in our IP house. It's obviously catering to our IP and our brand of products. So
yeah.
Even though I didn't know him ahead of time, just going through it, and obviously I got to know him afterwards. We went to Origins with him and stuff. All that stuff has to click too.
Yeah.
So we're in a weird position here where I'd love to be more open to submissions and be making more games, but at the same time, I know our limitations, and I want to be fair to designers. I would hate to sign a game from a designer who's hoping to get paid on a Kickstarter or release for the game, and they're waiting 2 or 3 years. That doesn't seem fair,
right,
to designers.
Yeah. Now, another thing that comes up a lot, especially with tabletop games nowadays, is expansions. Do you have a set limit that you put on expansions? Do you just sort of play it as you have ideas, or is it more when you came up with stuff, you had extra ideas that lead into expansions?
So the best example for that is Apocalypse, because it has the most expansions.
Mm-hmm.
And before I even started making the game, just when I had this idea of the title of the game is called Maximum Apocalypse, which some people say is stupid, but it's an homage to an old movie called Maximum Overdrive, which is one of the worst movies ever, sort of thing, in my opinion. It
really is, yeah.
And it was me, it was just the title I gave it as sort of a tongue-in-cheek place to put all that genre stuff that I love, because I'm a huge apocalypse fiction, pop culture person. Like I just tend to like that genre, whether it's a comic book, movie, TV show, doesn't matter. There's a lot of it. If it has that post-apocalyptic vibe, everything from like The Walking Dead to like Book of Eli, Maximum Overdrive, I tend to like that stuff. So I just knew there was a bunch of stuff like that in general because I'm such a fan of it. So I just like wrote down every idea and like apocalyptic thing possible, movie, blah, blah, blah. And I still have the Excel spreadsheet that I go to, just sort of as like a brain dump. And then, you know, when I was making the game, obviously I sort of chose the ones that I thought made the most sense. I was going to have an interesting game mechanic that goes along with sort of the thing, right? So, you know, with Maximum Apocalypse, with like, you know, with some of the expansions we did, it's like, oh, like I've got this cool idea for like a life drain mechanic. I'm gonna use like vampires for that, you know, like a vampire apocalypse for that. Oh, I've got an idea where like you put these restrictions on yourself and your character starts going crazy. I'm gonna put Thulu on that. You know, I go back to my list of sort of things. So the mechanics and themes sort of always have to tie together strongly for the expansion stuff with Maximum.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that there's stuff that exists like as the expansions were finished, play tested, and gone through the ringer to make sure they were fun before anything ever came of them further than like an idea on a piece of paper. So I don't think we go into games with a lot of expansion ideas. We sort of try to make the most complete game that we can, and then I mean, a lot of the games I do are modular in general. So like Set of Watch is our most recent game. We didn't talk about expansion content until well after the Kickstarter was done.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's a game where you pick your own character and there's character class to choose from and different monsters, you know, it's sort of naturally easy to say, oh, fantasy tropes, what other classes in fantasy and D&D do we not have included? What would those powers look like? And then you start tossing around those ideas and coming up with stuff. So, I mean, it's an ongoing thing, you know, going back to sort of what I was talking about earlier about the game release side of things. I don't think we're big enough or fast enough to do 4 new game releases a year. My plan and my hope is to get to 2 new game releases, like 2 new IPs a year, and then 2 expansions, you know, that same year. Because expansions, you know, you have sort of you've established the game, so even though they still take a lot of time to make, they are faster than starting a game from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So if we plan things right, we can sort of have a new game and expansion for an old game, a new game, you know, and then you can start long tailing back to the ones that are popular if they're doing well enough. I mean, I also want to support games. If our games are doing well enough and people are still playing them, I want to support them with expansion content as long as I have expansion ideas that make sense.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's like keeping up with the idea of something that makes sense is something that at least I see as sensible in you know, smaller publishing companies, it seems. And that's something I always like hearing.
Yeah. One of the interesting things we just sort of talked about, like Todd and I, about Set a Watch, and I'm working on a Maximum Apocalypse expansion. One of the things we were talking about that we're actually going to do, which I don't think is as common in board games, is we're actually going to make straight up sequels. So Set a Watch, the next Set a Watch is going to be, you can think of it as an expansion because it's completely compatible with the old game, but it will be a standalone game as well. So we'll have everything you need to play. The new game will be all enclosed in the new box. So, you know, new monsters, new characters, new mechanics, all the new stuff will be perfectly self-contained and playable in the new box. And we're going to use numbers to identify when something's an expansion, it will not have a number, and when something is a sequel, it will have a number to it. So sort of like the video game idea of things, where like Call of Duty 4 comes out, but then there's Call of Duty map packs and stuff, and they have their own names of things. And then, or Destiny, you know, Destiny 1, Destiny 2, but then there's Destiny like Fall of the King or whatever, and they have the different expansions during that iteration of the game. If something is standalone, you don't need everything before it, it's going to have a number on it. So even though Maximum Apocalypse has all these expansions to it, the Maximum Apocalypse that I'm working on currently, that's going to be that was always planned to be a standalone expansion, is now going to be Maximum Apocalypse 2. It'll probably still have a subtitle, but it will have a number associated with it, so you know that you can buy just the sequel and you're covered. You don't need to go back and buy everything else.
That's cool. It's great.
It's really for our own sanity as well. Like, so we know, oh, that has a number on it. We know it's not one of our like expansion add-ons. It's a standalone thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, like, when you're considering expansions, do you focus more on, like, you know, Maximum Apocalypse? It was very successful, and like Set a Watch was very successful. Like, or do you like go back to like sometimes like, oh, would you maybe like still go back to Brass Empire, because that was the original? Like, if you had an idea for it.
We did. We have an expansion for Brass Empire.
Yeah.
I think I made several mistakes with it.
Mm.
I think the fact that it wasn't a standalone expansion was a huge deterrent to people, because it was such a large, grandiose idea.
Yeah.
Basically, in the expansion of Brass Empire, you take on the role of a person working for one of the companies of the game and play through like a campaign. So it's not Legacy, because you can always reset and play through again. It's not like stickers, not destroying cards and stuff like that. But the idea was that the new mechanics for the sort of deck builder expansion were unlocked over time as you played through the campaign. So you could open everything and play with all the new stuff in a standard game of Brass Empire, or you could sort of play through the storylines and this campaign, and it's slowly introducing you to the new card types, the new mechanics of the game, blah, blah, blah. So you don't need to learn a bunch of new rules. You just need to know the rules for the base game. Open up the expansion. You can basically start playing. It'll teach you as you go. But the expansion had more cards than the original, was more expensive than the original. If you didn't have the original, you need to buy the original with it. So it just made it a really expensive proposition.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been a lot more successful if it was just like Brass Empire 2. Same price, you get everything you need in there.
Yeah.
So I would say we would always return to a IP as long as it was, but obviously we're going to return to the ones that are more successful more often. So, you know, Brass Empire, after my stumble, there's nothing, we don't have anything in the works for Brass Empire anytime soon. But there was an expansion for it, so if you really like Brass Empire, there is more than enough content. In fact, I don't even know if I've heard of anybody beating all 5 stories in the game, because I wrote, I think it was 50 pages of like story for the game that's like all on card. So like I basically wrote a novella for the game as well, which was like a lot of work, and I don't know if I reaped the benefits of it. But, you know, so Brass Empire, but I mean, we can always return to it. It's our IP, you know. And I've had friends pitch ideas for me about Brass Empire specifically. Someone had like a war game idea for Empire, and the only sort of stumbling block was it's a little bit of a big game for like what we do right now. So he's like, yeah, it'd probably be like a 2-hour tabletop game, and we try to keep our game experiences to like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So he was like, it's going to be like 2, and you know, it's a little bit more of like a Forbidden Stars level type war game where, yeah, I just think it'd be a little too long, and for at least our market that we're aiming for at this time.
Understandable. Joe, again, I'm giving you the option if you've come up with something.
Well, what got you in the gaming in the first place?
Oh, originally, like back in the day, like so what got me into the first 2 board games, I would say I was like a hobbyist for. So Magic the Gathering was one of them, and I would say Warhammer was the other. Although I only ever played Warhammer like twice. It was just about buying figures and painting them a lot, and looking at the rulebook and hoping to play, and then never having the time to actually get together and like set up a war. I played like twice, maybe less than that. But I liked painting and collecting all the figures. So Warhammer I discovered while I was at summer camp in 5th or 6th grade between school, and a kid talked about his older brother who was in college, who went to this board game store down in Newark, which is like the University of Delaware, which is near where I lived.
Okay.
And, you know, it was like one of those classic old friendly local game stores, you know. I got into Magic before, but I was buying Magic from like, you know, it was like everyone in 6th grade just started playing it, and it was like in the supermarket aisle, you know, you could buy it right there.
Right.
So I sort of heard about this stuff, and the kid was just telling me at camp, because I think I was playing Magic, and he's like, oh, there's this fantasy game where you get figures, and you get like all your goblins and stuff from Magic, and you can fight. And he was like selling it to me, and I was like, oh man. He's like, yeah, my brother's really into it. It's down by his like college. So, I took my lawn mowing money and begged my parents to take me down there, and they took me to this old, classic sort of local game store, where my mom hated it. She said she hated taking me there, which I found out years later, because she thought the people who worked there were weird with their beards and like wizard costumes, and sort of dark in there, and there's a bunch of older people hanging around it. It was like on this college street, but there was a lot of older people who played Dungeons and Dragons in it. And she told me years later, like, she hated that she would have to take me down there. Never felt comfortable leaving me there, because me and my other friend would go. So I went into the store, and there was just like all this board game stuff and like fantasy stuff that I just never been exposed to. So, from Dungeons and Dragons to BattleTech, like boxes and sheets with mechs on them and stuff, and all the figures I could look at. So I just started going down. I just started wanting to get taken down there. I was a comic book guy too, so my parents were used to taking me to comic book shops, and that was sort of became my new thing afterwards. It was like, take me to Days of Nights, so I can look at Warhammer figures, and they had some comic books too, and I could play Magic there and look at the Magic cards that were worth a ton of money in like the glass case and blah blah blah. So that's sort of what got me. That was like my first exposure to like board gaming, tabletop gaming for sure. Was sort of playing Magic, thinking it was neat, and then real board gaming. Obviously, you have like Monopoly and stuff like that, but I never liked that very much.
Yeah.
Right. And finding that store and walking into it for the first time was definitely an impactful moment for me. And I started. I mow lawns, and that's where I'd want to go with my. Mow lawns all weekend, and then the next weekend on Saturday after I mowed lawns, I'd want to be taken to the comic book shop or Days of Nights if they drive me down there.
Cool. No, that sounds like it would be a really fun time. Like, it's an experience that I can remember having some similar things too. But
yeah, I was always a little young for the store. It was in a college town, so I'd be around on Saturdays when they have Magic tournaments and stuff. But I never played. I never got that. I always played Magic with my friends. I never was old enough or comfortable enough to say, take me to this tournament or this thing and let's play there. It was always in friends' basements and stuff,
Yeah.
Right.
But we would be there. We were like the 10-year-old, 11-year-old, sort of peeking their head over the guys who were older than us, seeing what they were doing.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Let me see. Do I have any other major questions and points? Is there anything that you can talk about that's on the horizon right now for your company?
Sure. So we have a game called Alder Quest, like the tree, coming up. It is a area control, bluffing game with a match 3 economy, where you play sort of fantasy themed creatures, animals, squabbling over acorns. So have you guys ever played Stratego?
Mm-hmm.
Remember Stratego?
Yep.
So this is sort of the element that I brought to the game, once, because I'm not the primary designer. I just helped develop it throughout the process. So the big piece that I brought was this. I love bluffing and played poker in college and all that kind of stuff. Love Netrunner for the bluffing mechanics. So we had this game about animals fighting over each other with cards and stuff, and I just always felt like it was too much like other CCGs and there wasn't enough unique stuff. And I was like, what game I really liked as a kid? Stratego. And there's no games like Stratego. So I came up with this sort of element that we added to the game where every turn you're placing one of your acorn tiles face down. It's an acorn worth 1, 2, or 3 points, or it's a trap. And I don't know what it is, but you have to place a tile every turn. And you only have 2 tiles to place. And you have to play cards to add traps to your bag. And there's some bag building where you draw your things. You draw acorns from your little cool bag that you can shake around and stuff. And then I'm moving my creatures around on this board, and there's a big cool 3D tree. I think it's on our Instagram. You can see that you're going to build out a cardboard that goes in the middle. So there's actually spaces that you can jump up in the tree. And the whole point is that you're trying to grab each other's acorns and tribute them back to the tree. It's sort of this weird pseudo fantasy sport. Think of it of the Quidditch for the fantasy animal world. where they're fighting over these acorns and trying to store them in this tree that's in the middle of like a playfield. And you're sort of tackling each other. If your animals run into each other, they're just both removed from the game and knocked out. So it's about area controlling. And if you have a bird, you can hop over. Obviously, if you're a bird, you can sort of fly over people. And if you're a ninja mouse, you can sneak and use diagonal and movement and stuff. So it's all about moving around this grid, which is really small. It's like 5x5, grabbing people's acorns and bringing them to the tree and scoring them for points. But the caveat is that acorn that's placed can always be a trap. And those traps can blow up in your face and remove your creatures and change the area control. So that's Alder Quest, which is coming out. And the other game we've announced that is in the works, that's new, is a Lawyer Up. It's an asymmetric game, head-to-head game, where one player plays the prosecution and the other player plays the defense. And obviously your lawyer is playing a case. So it's modular, where each case is its own thing. And you go through that case deck of evidence and draft it to your core decks and play head-to-head. So that'll be coming out. That'll be coming to Kickstarter sometime next year for sure. We're gonna have a bunch of different cases for it: murder case, art forgery case, mafia 1920s mafia case, Salem witch trials. So there's a lot of different themes we're playing with in Lawyer Up. But it's asymmetrical, where people's goals on each side of the aisle are different, which is interesting.
Yeah, sounds cool. Neat. I think I kind of hit on the major points that I wanted to discuss today. Joe, can you think of anything else that that I haven't hit or you had?
Not off the top of my head.
I think we've covered plenty about me. Let's go on to the next. Let's go on to the next thing.
That's fine by me. All right. So you're gonna at least be joining us for a little bit longer.
I'll stay until if your order stays true. I will stay until I can no longer offer anything, which is going to be when you guys get to that Pathfinder D&D stuff.
Okay, so we'll hit up let's hit up Namiji, because this is an interesting game. Oh, I have to reset that image there. But this is a kind of interesting game because it seems that they're taking the Tokaido formula and basically just redoing it in a way. Which, I mean, I don't mind if it fits with what you're trying to do. More power to people for, like, doing things separately. I've never complained, I guess English is escaping me here. Like, I've never complained if it makes sense. In this one, it seems to be it's a track very similar to how Tokaido is, and you advance on the track. It seems like it works a lot the same. It's just what the tracks do, and the idea that it's more of a like, as the art they show, it's kind of more island and water-based travel. It seems like more, rather than you're on a trail, maybe you're on a little like boat ride and stopping places kind of thing. So, I mean, it's an interesting concept that they've thrown out and announced, and I'm hoping that we can learn more about it. If it fits like always, like when they do different tickets to rides with just little changes, I don't mind that, because those little changes can change the gameplay very differently.
Well, I mean, the artwork is beautiful always for those games. I mean,
yeah.
Even from the image, you can tell it's like exactly the same sort of style.
Yeah.
Minimalist, cool thing. I mean, my big question would be, is it just, a different shaped track instead of a long road from one place to the other, like Tokaido?
Yeah.
Is it just like a circle with like the same sort of stuff, where there's temples and stuff, or is there some more juice to it? You know what I mean?
It looks like there's some different symbols on there. It looks like there's some origami kind of thing going on too.
Like the main images I've been able.
I'm looking at Board Game Geek.
Yeah, they've got some images from one of the festivals they were showing it off at. If you want to like dive deeper into the images, the thing about it is it still is a one direction track. It looks like looks like they're adding completely different spaces. So I mean, like, yes, it's pretty much the same gameplay, but played in a different way, I'm assuming, is how it's kind of going to go about.
Art?
Yeah, I know. And there seems to be more to it that we don't know about, and I'm curious that if we can hear more from them, because this is something that's just, they've had it played, like at the International Spieltag Spiel. I guess it's a German.
Yeah, it
convention.
sounds German.
Some kind of German convention. They
I
had
put
a
it in chat,
prototype there.
Link to some of the pictures on Board Game Geek.
But so they have a prototype that they've been showing around at conventions at least.
Right.
But we don't have enough from like either they haven't talked about it or no one has talked about their experience with it enough for us to know more than it looks really nice with the art that they're showing off, and it's of a product line I did like. I like the Tokaido game. That was one that I have a lot of fun with. So I don't necessarily... I'm interested in it because of that, but...
It looks like instead of paintings, you're fishing.
There's more to it, and it's supposed to be standalone, which is good, but I'm still, like, curious if it changes the formula enough. It's that balance between, like, if you're doing a game and if it's something that makes you feel like...
If it's too similar or if it's actually does add something new into the mix.
Yeah, it's either going to, like, replace Tokaido if it's too similar, or it'll be, like, a better... or it'll be like its own thing. It'll be different enough that it's like, oh, there's this one's fun because of this, and the original's fun because...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's one of the basic reasons that, like, as I was bringing in Ticket to Ride, we both have played and loved Ticket to Ride Europe. Europe's a little more challenging at times, but, like, that different maps and different components make them feel differently. So it's like, oh, I want to do the European map for a little bit of change up, or just the basic America for a simple game. Settlers does a lot of that too, with like weird expansions.
Yeah, it's sort of like a Clank too, like with Clank in Space, and it's the same core mechanic, but they feel different. There's different.
And I'm definitely hoping that's the direction they're going to take, is they're going to feel different enough that I wouldn't mind having both in my library.
Right.
But so yeah, it's recently announced. They are showing it off at some conventions. Those conventions haven't happened yet. I don't think the international spiel I think is coming up, but it's demoed on the 24th to 27th of October. So if you're in Germany, you can check it out. I don't know if we have German viewers. I think I've got a couple viewers of my channel in Germany, but, like, if you're in Germany and you can check it out and you're going to be there, hey, report us some information on it. We'd like to learn a little bit more. It'll give us a chance to get, a bit more of opinion. But it's. I think for this one, I want to talk about it because I like Tokaido, and it's definitely going to be on my radar to see what they develop for this. So, now, I do have some Magic the Gathering I do want to talk about. And this is one that I think... well, the problem with me for this one is they're selling the deluxe collection for $450.
Okay, that was the only thing I couldn't find was the price.
Oh, it is $450.
It's a lot.
It is. This is not for general populace when it comes to a product.
It's for a collector.
Yeah, it's for a collector.
Considering it also comes with an uncut sheet of foils.
Oh, no. It comes with part of an uncut sheet.
Well, yeah, not an entire, but...
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. That tells you right there, it's for your collectors. It's not for your average...
it's for your serious people, because some of those people will buy decks pre-built for tournaments for that much money, so...
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I can recognize the value, and I can understand someone getting something for a collector. I don't mind that. But, like, I kind of, like, was going over some person talking about this and, like, breaking down what's in this, and I found it interesting that it's not really a good value for what they're offering in a way, is the unfortunate thing. It's $450, it gives you 16 collector boosters, which are like, I guess they're just booster packs that look fancy, in a way. I don't know what else is for the collector boosters. I haven't been able to find out information on it. but like that is most of the money you're going to be getting for this. Like uncut sheets, you can get them because they aren't playable. They aren't that expensive. They're like, okay, maybe you can get like one, like certain ones are like $100, but still, this is 9 cards of an uncut sheet, and then some stuff for Magic Arena, an art print, which depending on if the artist sells it may have value, a non-foil version of their buy-a-box, which is foil for the buy-a-box. Is that special then? And then a borderless card, which apparently, like, their borderless cards, I haven't cared too much about it, but their borderless cards lately have been just, like, stretched versions of art. And a binder.
I mean, they look cool.
Oh, no,
But,
I'm not saying, like...
And even what you get for the Magic Online, I'm happy that they're doing something with that, but it's not even a lot.
No, it's...
You get... what is it? A digital Garruk exquisite sleeve.
One copy of a bunch of cards.
Copy of a bunch of and a copy of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards with with an additional style to them.
Why are they so stingy with digital stuff? Why don't they just dump a shit ton of digital stuff into this to get people?
Yeah, to me, if you're going to spend $450, give the entire set digitally.
Mm-hmm. Like
it's not costing you anything.
Yeah. And the fact is, like, that's the thing is, there's more you could have had. The entire set digitally would have been a perfectly fine thing. That would have been just like, okay, can people make a deck out of it? No, people want play sets of stuff. So you can't play with it necessarily. You're in a good way towards it. So it's not like...
Actually, with because you haven't played Magic Online a lot, you can earn things to duplicate cards that you have in your collection.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got the entire set and you have a bunch of those extra things to duplicate cards, you could make you could have 4 entire sets of that set.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like this, because it's it's way more expensive than any of the previous like special editions they've done. It's like nearly twice the price of the last one. And I feel like at this point in time, they're just aiming for, like, we're going to produce this limited run of something.
Dead mouse.
I guess the cat gave me a present. Thank you, Aurora. I'll take care of it when I'm done, okay?
It's really nasty.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm on stream right now, so you go behave, thank you. Go see what your daddy's up to.
First.
Aurora? Come on, be good. But anyway, as I was saying, like, I got interrupted by Dead Mouse.
That was my favorite part of this whole thing so far.
Houses everywhere.
Aurora, come on. Be good. You know you're not supposed to be in here when I'm doing this, okay? Don't grunt at me. Go tell your father there's a dead mouse in the hall. That Damien left me a present.
I'm not gonna touch that mouse.
Just tell him that it's there, please. Anyway,
and also the fact you can only buy it on the Magic Store.
Yeah, okay, that's the thing is they have been improving their Magic Store. Originally it was on like their first time of doing one of these special editions was Hasbro, which sucked. And then they tried something with eBay, and they finally have their own kind of store. Great. Great that they're shipping it worldwide. I'm happy about that. They've improved in their like deluxe versions of sets they've been doing lately, which, again, I am a collector, but I am not a collector that can spend money, so I just like collecting the individual cards and not these crazy things that, like this, which is for collectors with money.
Yeah.
If there's 10,000 collectors with money worldwide, they're gonna get their money back plus some. You know, that's the thing that we have to think about. 10,000 worldwide that could afford this, that is, oh god, quick math, like $4,500,000. Right there.
Yeah.
Is that math right?
Something like
I
that.
think
Yes.
it is.
Okay, go.
But it's, I mean, the fact that you can only get it through their store, and they're being stingy as hell with the digital stuff.
Yeah, and like I feel like that's the kind of getting back to it. Is like I feel like it's exclusive stuff, but it's not anything like super special exclusive. Like, you know, like the art print the foil sheet, the binder. They're neat. Are they something that, like, I could hold up and be like... I could hold it up and probably be like, hey, I got the deluxe collection. Could I hold it up and be like, I got something that's cooler than everybody else's? Probably not.
Yeah, it's like, I overpaid for this. Look!
I had the money to spend on this. Around it.
Yeah, I mean, for the price, like I said, I think it should come with a whole set of the digital. So,
sorry, you guys heard that.
Okay.
The stream didn't.
Yeah. But it's, you know, like I said, if it came with maybe a whole digital set, I could see the value.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Again, like,
and that wouldn't cost them any more really to do.
I mean, people are gonna buy it. What do they care?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the end result.
the thing is, like, the only thing I can hope about the trend they're going with these deluxe sets is I don't care in a way because it's a product that's definitely not for me. It's for those huge spending people that can spend $450 beyond what they already spend on Magic. The people that can spend like $5,000 or $6,000 on Magic a year, you know?
Right.
And are there a lot of them out there? Probably not. Are there enough for Wizards to earn their money and Hasbro to earn their money? Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, if this funds something else in the Magic world that is awesome, great, you know? I just... With the amount of money, you know, it's sort of like those big video game collections. None of them ever look worth it for the amount of money you're spending on it, for, like, their weird products they have with them. I would just hope that, like, the money they want us to spend on these collector's editions of whatever, it looks like you're getting your value's worth. And sometimes you do. This one, I don't feel like you do.
No. But on the same vein, real quick, on Magic Online, they do have the Throne of Eldraqne starting. You can play with the cards out of the new set.
The pre-release is either this week or the next, and I can't remember what. And I wasn't going to talk about it until it was formally released on the show here.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You want to check out the new set, you can.
Yeah. So. No, it's... Wizards have been taking interesting directions, I think, that, especially in the Magic side of things, that it's that there's a little bit of concern in my brain just because I know some kind of problems could occur with their thought patterns, almost like there's a lot more, and it might not be Wizards itself, it might be on the Hasbro side, but there has been a lot more feeling like greed. You know, it feels like it, and it's Magic's as popular as it's been. It's probably more popular than it's been in a lot of ways, which I'm happy about. I like the game. You know, I like playing the game. But does it need to be that worried? Thank you. Thank you for the bag to clean up the dead mouse. Okay, keep going.
I hate mice. They're
Okay,
so disgusting.
go. Yeah, go.
Bye.
Yes, bye. Ah.
Listen out.
Oh, Aurora.
Yeah, adorable, but when she
Insane.
How old is she? Mine are 4 and 2, and I can definitely relate.
She's 6. I'm helping my brother raise her. I've been with him and helping him for like a couple of years now, helping raise her. So I've been, I think 3 was the time that I really got involved in her life. So it's been 3 years of adorableness.
Of dead mice, and things are gross.
Yeah.
I'm sure unicorns and rainbows is...
Oh, plenty of that. Mm-hmm. Plenty of very unusual stuff over the years. She's cute, but, you know, crazy. As all kids are. I remember I was, so. But yeah, no, back to the Throne of Eldraqne stuff, again, like, that's my just big takeaway is, like, I would love to have, as a collector, the disposable income to get something like this. I'm smart enough to know when I don't. I don't feel like this would be the thing I would get with my disposable income if I had it, though, with Magic. I could probably get the collector's boosters and, like, a full like uncut sheet and some other cool stuff for not this price. So that's just what I feel about it at this point, you know. But will it retain its value? I guess time will tell. That's another one of those things about with Magic sets. You never know. And definitely Wizards could have put some kind of crazy promo out there that's completely different from what they have, that would have made sense to make. People would have loved it. It would have attracted people to this, and it would have also been like that collector's bling. You know, like an alternate art of something, or, you know, take some of their, like, masterpiece or, you know, expedition, like, ideas of how they made those, like, really special, rare super cards when they were doing it for a brief period of time. Make something like that and put it in here.
Right.
Anyway, if I dive too deeply into it, I'll be like, I'm less annoyed than I make myself out to be. Let me put it that way. I'm working myself up about it just because, like, why?
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous.
Well, it's like we have that it's a love-hate relationship that we have with Steve Jackson Games. A constant battle of, like, we like their games but hate a lot of the stupid ideas they do. And I think this is the same way with Wizards. Sorry, Wizards. When it comes to Magic, you have weird ideas.
Yeah.
But I think we'll move on to the role-playing things, and I think, Michael, you wanted to head out as we finish up.
Yeah, I am not able to add anything to the role-playing, unfortunately. But thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you guys at a future.
Oh, yeah. If you're at PAX Unplugged, we'll make sure to stop by.
We will be there.
Yeah. We'll make sure to say hi.
Yeah, you can play Alder Quest. We might have Warrior up there, too. I don't know. We'll figure it
nice.
out. Still figuring it out. All right, great, guys. Have a good Saturday.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Let's switch over here as he leaves the call. Ways to leave the call. We could switch over calls. Oh, there it goes. Let me fix it then.
Doo-doo. Yes.
Oh, I don't know why things haven't been working as I switch to stuff. Let me fix them. Anyway, yeah, let's move on, though. D&D. We have a new book out, Descent into Avernus. Do you want to handle some very basics about that?
I love the alternative cover. It looks evil as hell.
Oh, that's the wrong person.
God. So, yeah, I only got a chance to really glance over it, but it's it takes place in Baldur's Gate, City of Ambition and Corruption. Let's see, you got. Unfortunately, the page I have doesn't have a lot of information. Let's see. Book, it's for levels 1 to 13. You go through Baldur's Gate into Avernus, the first of layer of the 9 hells.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that they take you into the 9 hells. I'm curious as to, like, the plot line that would take you only into the 1, because most of the time when you have plot lines into the 9 hells, they are... Some of them usually involve multiple layers. You know, that's one of those things.
The thing is, it's levels 1 through 13, so they could come out with, you know, another book later on that could take you 14 to 20, and maybe that goes deeper into the hells.
And I understand why they're putting this out now, because they're doing a new Baldur's Gate video game. So, of course, they're going to do a book related to Baldur's Gate, introducing you to it again before they do the video game. Yeah, that alternate art, now that I'm looking at that picture, is really awesome.
Yeah, the skull with the flames.
Yeah, that's very cool. Maybe that's...
I actually like that one better than the full art regular one. I mean, that looks good. It's good art. But the other one just says, this is evil.
Yeah, the other one is just like, I think probably Earnest doing its thing, you know, which is not a terrible thing, you know. Earnests are kind of like the quintessential fallen angel of D&D, so I don't ever mind using them.
And you can only get the alternate cover in game stores.
That's actually something I really do support.
I agree, because it makes you, it's trying to promote going to your local game store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's something that Magic oftentimes fails with, that Dungeons & Dragons has been doing good. That they've been supporting local game stores, because that's a great way of getting new players in a lot of times, That's the problem. You can only play D&D online so well. There's Roll20 for that. After that, it doesn't work quite as well. So yeah, you really... The pen and paper in person is really the way to go.
I always say it's more preferable, but you take what you get these days sometimes.
That's true, and I don't mind Roll20. It's just that that's an entirely different company, too.
Yeah.
And it's
also not the same as rolling real dice.
No. So it does introduce the idea of infernal war machines, battle-ready vehicles to blast off into the blood worlds. That's kind of an interesting idea, because, the idea of the war machine has existed in a lot of settings, but the idea of, one that's involved within the blood world. Because Avernus, I think, is, the layer where the blood war is being battled. I like the idea of devil deals. That might be something that would be interesting to look into that's being provided here. And then, just giving more information on Baldur's Gate and, going over what it is in the modern incarnation. Because there's probably books out there for Baldur's Gate and older editions, but I am unfamiliar with them.
I'm sure there's adventure paths and stuff to go through Baldur's Gate.
Oh, yeah, no. Back in the old days, definitely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's out now. So this book, the alternate art one was on the 17th. Hey, my birthday. It came out for both of them. It came out for the alternate art one in bookstores and in Getting It Anywhere for the normal art.
Well, Tantus, you know what I have to say?
Uh-huh.
Happy birthday, go to hell.
Exactly.
That's what D&D said to you this year.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with Zariel as much, the Archdevil.
I know the name.
It makes me have to look it up. I'd forgotten Realms Wiki.
I know the name, I don't remember a lot about it.
It's the ruler of Avernus, but that's 5e. So there was someone else that was ruling Avernus in the older editions, and that might have been working for it.
It was Bob.
Probably. Oh, formerly Solar. Predecessors Bell. Oh, that's right. Bell was before, which was the Baitor. Yeah,
okay.
That was the one I remembered, because that was 3rd edition introduced him in the Book of Vile Darkness that talked about Bell. And so Zariel is the replacement to Bell. Neat. Good to know. Huh. And so she's like so that might actually be... I don't think it's actually supposed to be Zariel on the cover, because that looks more of an Uranus anyway. But she's like the ultimate Uranus, because she's a fallen Solar. So that's, a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks, like I said, this alternate cover looks kick-ass, but Baldur's Gate's always a great setting.
Yeah.
Oh god, they came out with a special dice box for it too, with special dice for it.
I'm sure that. Well, you have to know that. I'm sure that WizKids is going to throw out a whole bunch of products related to it too, figures or something too. They always do little figures related to something. Well, this one I feel. Although this is another big one. We have to remember this was a big one, because when they did the D&D live event, this is the thing they were promoting. Because Will and Scott, some friends of mine who went to D&D live, this is the thing that they were promoting there.
Right.
I don't know if they got a copy of it early. They might have been they got a copy of it early. I can't remember.
Actually, this comes with a lot of extra stuff, not just the dice.
Well, it's got the entire box too.
You get the box is awesome too. But you get, a whole set, a durable line dice tray that also works as part of a 2-piece dice box. but you get 20 double-sided cards with encounter tables and story content from the Devils and Demons of the Blood War, featuring exclusive art from Max Dunbar, exclusive content card for strange encounters and trinkets one finds in Avernus, fold-out map of Avernus for players to use, and sizing chart for Blood War Demons and Devils.
Yeah, no, it's got a lot of interesting things in it.
That's not bad for $25.
No, I mean, like, it's a durable lined dice tray too for 11 dice. So it's like normally like a good dice set. You like a dice set that would look like this. I would probably think like at cheapest, I would
13 to 15.
Yeah, you could probably get it for. Now, great, like that's not the cheapest. Like that's what average goes. Like if you find a really good store, it could have a dice set that looks like dice like this for maybe like 7.
10. No, maybe
7. I've still seen those closer to those prices, but they're very rare, and usually that's like only certain ones are of that 7. Maybe like these are not the ones that are being produced anymore. Things like that. You know, things happen. You know that.
Yeah.
But normally, yeah, you're like around 10.
But so I mean, half the price is, you know, is just the dice normally.
Yep.
So to get all that extra for 25 is actually not bad if you're really into doing this, and you get all extra material to use for your game.
Mm-hmm. No, it looks very nice. It's kind of interesting. It definitely is.
Oh, actually, it's more than just a whole set because you're getting 2d20s, 1d12, 2d10s, 1d8, 4d6s, and 1d4.
Yes, 11 dice. So it's more than the normal
Yeah,
standard.
I didn't even
dice
think
set.
about it. Yeah, you're actually getting. So yeah, you're definitely getting your money's worth.
No, I would say this is a pretty good little set here for like an exclusive collector's set of dice, plus some extra things. It's not bad. No. Again, it's always kind of expensive though. So.
But like I said, overall, that's not a bad price for everything you get. If you want to have the extra material and you want a cool set of dice to go, you know, match the setting. It's not like out of the realms. It's not like the magic stuff that we talked about earlier.
Yep. But yeah, so Descent into Avernus, Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, I should say, is out now if you want to go to hell.
Stop telling everyone to go to hell.
No. Let's talk Pathfinder. We have the Lost Omens World Guide. So, this Pathfinder 2nd edition, it's one of the early books that they're throwing out here, beyond the core books that you always find, you know, like the Bestiary, DMG, Player's Handbook. Those are the ones you always get first. This is like the... I don't know if it is the actual first, but it's one of the first actual, like, expansion books. And this is a world setting book, which I'm kind of glad that they do have, but also it's like... It's a 136 page guide to the world of Pathfinder. It's the Age of Lost Omens, and I don't know if that's like their storyline for Pathfinder 2nd edition. Like, I know a lot of sometimes RPGs take the storyline forward. Maybe this is like a little bit of them, that the Age of Lost Omens is the current age, that we had like all the previous adventure paths were whatever age then. And this is like jumping ahead in time a little bit to these adventure paths of like after all that happened, where after like a bunch of apocalyptic things almost happened and people solved them. Like, I feel like that's the only problem with Pathfinder, their adventure paths. There's a lot of really awful stuff going on in the background that, like, heroes are randomly solving a lot. It's a heroic age because of the nature of it. Like, D&D can be a heroic age. Like, Faerun and Forgotten Realms can be a heroic age, but oftentimes these heroic ages are not stacked with each other. You have your set of heroes doing an adventure separately than any other set of heroes doing an adventure in Faerun.
Right.
This is... all of them happen! You know? like at least they act like all of them happen, because some of these are like direct sequels or working off of each other. Like, you know,
Yeah.
So man,
The god of humanity is dead, and prophecy is broken.
Mm-hmm. So it's 10 diverse regions, deadly possibilities, a giant two-sided poster, kind of the heart of the Inner Sea area, which I think is it the Inner Sea area for Pathfinder and Galarian? Well, it's the heart. It's the heart of Galarion's territory, which
Right.
you know. I have to look that up. Galarion Inner Sea. Yep, it's the Inner Sea, where well, not the country I was thinking of was on the Inner Sea.
You said you would be done at 3.
I said between 3 and 3:30, Aurora.
No, you didn't.
I did. I told your daddy that. Go downstairs and wait.
Said 3.
Yes. We're close to being done, so go downstairs. We're doing something as a family after this show, so she's very impatient.
I just want to be with a family.
Tell her I'm going to come and tickle her.
Aurora's gonna come and tickle you. Or no, Joe. Joe's gonna come and tickle you now. If you're not behaved, I'd go downstairs and wait with Grammy.
Grammy's upstairs washing up.
Okay, then go hang out with her. Thank you. Go.
He's changing.
Oh, niece fun. So,
She's
continuing.
not good. Yeah, she's not good at realizing the fact that the more she distracts me.
I wasn't sure when you unmuted.
Yeah, I just unmuted. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, no, it's interesting that they're. I feel like this is a rehash of some of the stuff they've put out in previous books, and I understand the need for it a little bit too. It's like probably I don't even know if they're going to suggest like go back to these older books for more information on these places, but it is still a pretty big guide, and you know, it's only $37 for like 10 regions, because they're not doing countries, they're doing regions. So I feel like what they're doing is they're doing like, this is a general book of like Pathfinder 2nd edition, how it exists in comparison, and you maybe could use some of their older material for settings for redoing it. I'm going to be curious if they do go back and start redoing some of those books in 2nd edition, because it's a lot of the same information, unless this time jump has caused a lot of changes, which I kind of doubt. Unless they're like going, if it's like, we jumped in time a little bit, the world is completely different. I'm like, well, why? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, the god of humanity's dead.
What god of humanity? There was like a billion of them.
The god of humanity is dead, though.
Was there a specific one? I don't remember in Pathfinder.
I don't remember there being a specific one, but it says the god of humanity is dead. I don't know why that would affect any of the other races, but
I'm glad that they're actually they are advertising Archives of Nethys. Now, granted, the PSFR DD20 is also a pretty good source, and they do have a Pathfinder 2nd edition. But like the Archives of Nethys, apparently their online resource that the rules and mechanics can be offered for accessed for free from. Ooh. And they advertise it right on their site for the product page for this book. So,
right.
Apparently the hardcover's already on back order.
Yeah, I saw that.
So if you want a hardcover, you're gonna have to wait. But the PDF's immediate. PDF's 26. Again, PDFs from Paizo are always this like double-edged sword for me, because I think it's interesting that they offer them. It's cool that they're offering them. But in the massive, big old grain of salt, but I feel like they are always slightly more expensive than they should be for an electronic version of this. Personally, I feel like, but you know, I don't know if it actually is or not. But if that's what you can only do, more power to you. It's what you need to do. But if I was going to get one, I would just spend the extra to get the hardcover of these two. You know, Anyway, but it is a hardcover too, so that's the interesting thing. So we haven't seen many of their soft cover type books. I think we're feeling like, I feel like second edition is like easing us into their product line again, as like they had a huge product line for a long time, and we could always see like a couple of times a month they would have something like small books and maybe a large book every once in a while. I'm going to be interested if we like kind of repeat that for second edition, or they evolve their product line. Guess we'll have to see. Is the large hardcover books like this good sign? Anyway.
Okay, so just real quick, just looking on the archives and Nethys, looks like they're jumping 2,000 years.
Okay, that's a pretty jump. 2,000 years is a pretty big jump, and I can understand that, and I feel like that might make a difference, that you might want to redo these areas and re-show them. So if it's a 2,000 year jump, okay, I'll grant you that. Yeah, that's going to be a difference.
Yeah.
We're low on time, and I would like to end this. So why don't we skip Tales of the Loop? That was just like Tales of the Loop is kind of neat. I wanted to talk about another one. Did you have a Kickstarter for Kickstarter Korner? I haven't looked one up today, actually.
I could do a quick mention.
Sure, do a quick mention.
I kind of just looked at. I hadn't even got to read, but I found this in honor of your niece, since we mentioned they're liking unicorns and rainbows. Unicorn Fever.
All right.
By the same makers of Potion Explosion.
Oh, Potion Explosion. Yeah, I know that one.
They've exploded their goal. They're at 100,913, and their goal was for 32,000.
Yep.
They still have 17 days to go. So it looks like a mixture of board and card. God, the figures look cute as hell. The different unicorns.
Oh, that's what I put it.
They come. It looks like the unicorn figures come possibly unpainted, and you can paint them yourself.
Oh, and maybe there's a deluxe edition which is painted or something. Yeah, they do look like they're just gray and unpainted, but like, oh yeah, I see. Like, there's like
6 giant painted unicorns
in the ultimate one.
The ultimate pledge, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's like there are ones that you can get pre-painted, but it would be more expensive pledge.
Yeah. And just like higher pledges, you can get nice, like actual little gem tokens instead of cardboard tokens. So they got different tiers and different stuff you get with it.
Neat.
Yeah. 2 to 6 player, 14 plus, 40 minutes.
All right. We're gonna do a quick Our Week in Tabletop since we did the Kickstarter Korner.
Sure.
Yeah. Last Saturday we did was it a smaller game? Oh, it was Comrade Frontline.
Oh yeah, Comrades Frontline. Frontline, no comrades.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
We did that. That was fun.
Line rearrangement game.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
Yep. We did. I have to look up what we did on Sundays at Tabletop the past couple of
Sundays
weeks.
We did.
Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride, yeah.
And we did do something the week before, and we did America, and we didn't do something the week before. That was right. We did have a week off, so we did Ticket to Ride, and that was fun. Madness. We've had both weeks. The team is back together.
We got drunk and made up.
You got drunk and made up, and now you're infiltrating Calida lands, and you murdered some people that looked important. And guess what?
They're Calida.
Well, you horribly murdered and then set on fire some Calida.
Well, we wanted to bury them, but there was no shovel. We didn't have a shovel.
Look, I'm just saying. There's decisions you've made which aren't really great decisions. Will they have horrible lasting effects that will screw you? Maybe not. Could it? Yes. You did not go about that the greatest of ways.
Well, we wanted to put him in a bag of holding, but we didn't have the room. We were going to take them with us.
Yes. That would have been mysterious and probably better than burning corpses.
I didn't want to burn them. I said we should chop them up and put them in the bag of holding, but no one listened to me.
No, they didn't. But anyway, that was a thing.
Yes.
And I at least did have a episode of Records of Evil. We only had one because we were off a week. I think Legacies of Kain, we've been off 2 weeks because of problems both weeks. Like, the 1 week we had someone sick, and this last week the other person ended up not getting sleep the night before because they were coming back from New York to Wisconsin and got in horrible traffic on the way from New York late at night. So I'm like, oh, traffic overnight. That sucks, especially if it's like, he said for over an hour he was in traffic overnight.
Oh, and that's normally the best time to travel like that.
Yes. So yes, no sleep for the poor man, and we're like, go sleep, you feel better. No, I understand. But yeah, they started their work on building a cult, which involved them getting some clothes and planning to get jobs, because they've realized they do need money. You know, But
it's the cult of personality.
A bunch of medieval cultists have been teleported to the future and are now, like, trying to figure it out. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oy, oy.
And it's hilarious and wonderful every time I play that one. So, yeah. And we did do at least a session of the Pathfinder where, I don't know, every time I suggest something that I'm like, don't fight this, you guys are like, let's fight it.
Okay, no. Get it right. It's not all of us. There's two specific people who charge in and do stupid stuff all the time.
This time someone did... Oh, well, this time you goaded the druid to do it this time.
I didn't. I ran away.
Yes, you were smart.
I said, I'm not dealing with... No, we shouldn't deal with this. We haven't even rested since the last fight. Let's go.
I'm like, there are horrible shadowy monsters in here that seemingly are working for this thing. And the thing is, quite literally, when they went in, he was ignoring them, and he kept having to open his mouth and make it worse.
Yes.
It was like, just put the stuff down over there. You're perfectly fine. And it's like, hi, I'm an invader to this tower. Hello.
Well, not quite that, but that's what it ended up being, because it was just like, you're supposed to be an undead guy, and you're like, hi, master, I have some questions. Excuse me. Wait, then he looks over. You're too big to be one of them.
No, he's too small.
Or too small to be one of them. Go get him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... And then they summon a badger and run away.
I mean, the badger did actually do its job of distracting the shadows for at least a round. But they're probably looking for you now. Good luck on that one. You probably have to evacuate the tower at least for a while. And then...
Yes.
And then...
And also hope they don't release all the armies of skeletons we found.
Yeah, they have armies of undead that they have, like, just in waiting.
Hanging out in closets, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, as we kept seeing them get more and more powerful, I'm like, I think we should turn around and stop looking.
Yes. It was definitely the... Well, that was the point of it. The point was you not to clear out the tower. The point was you would discover, oh, there's an evil force building an army here. Maybe we should go find someone that can do something about it. You're level 2!
Yeah. I wanted to turn around sooner.
I have been hinting that there's something darker and more powerful than you can deal with in here the entire time!
I figured that out. Yeah. My guy's not an idiot.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to die.
There's an undead manufacturing plant here. And you're like, can we destroy this? And I'm like, go ahead and try! Why was this crossing your mind as level 2 characters? You came here to investigate ruins, not to stop an army of the undead. You are not heroes yet.
Can we do it? No, we can't.
But anyway, we'll see how it goes if the rest of you have gotten sense into their brains.
No. I'm pretty sure I'm the only rational one in this entire party.
You probably have seen that Lucian is really concerned, too, with how the distractions have been going.
But he hasn't even tried to speak up as much. I've kind of been like, guys, no. Fine, I'm walking away.
Yep. But anyway,
Lucian at least did take after me, like, yeah, I'm going to. Bye.
Yeah. Well, there was suggestions to, like, maybe we should withdraw. He was always for that, too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's too polite. I think it is. So, like, when one of you is like, let's push forward, he's like, I guess. Anyway, and, of course, if you want to ask the table, we are here to ask questions if you want to throw it to chat, or if you are going to be back here at a later point in time, you can come back next week and can throw us in chat. You can throw us together onto my Discord, directly message us on Discord, add us on our Twitters, or message us on our Twitters. Throw it into the description of the YouTube video when it comes up. There are lots of ways that you can throw us comments and questions, and discussingtabletop@yahoo.com. Lots of ways that you can send us questions that we either directly answer to you, or if we feel it's something that's important for the two of us to discuss in regards to role-playing topics and such, I'll bring it up here, or we'll bring it up here to talk about. So, Lots of ways to ask us questions. We're always open for them, whether they're related to something directly to tabletop or something nerdy in general. We probably will answer those too. But anyway, thanks for joining us today. I once again want to thank Michael. Again, gonna put Grenade. Is that, did we say that was right?
I think so.
Michael Grenade of oh wow, I love it when my brain just farts out for a second.
Blah, 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 blah. My brain's not working either. Funforge.
No, of Rock Manor Games.
Rock Manor. Sorry, wrong thing I'm looking at.
It took me a minute there because, forgetfulness.
Rock Manor. Yes.
Yeah, Michael Grenade of Rock Manor Games for joining us. It was great talking about Brass Empire, the Set of Watch, and all the other games that he has worked on, and hearing about his company and stuff. Thanks once again to Joe for joining me.
Yep.
We'll theoretically be back here tomorrow night for Sundays at Tabletop. And if you want to check out RPGs and other stuff, there are other things coming up in the week. Of course, there should be Records of Evil, Legacies of Kane, and Madison Land at their respective times next week, etc., etc. And I don't know if I'll be streaming tomorrow during the day. If I do, great. I'll announce it on Twitter and Discord, and you'll see me there. If not, sooner rather than later, I should be returning to a Twitch schedule that's a little bit more regular. Just been kind of get other things in the schedule hammered down first before I return to that. So, anyway. And, scripted videos have been coming up online on YouTube. Check those out. People love those. Those are the big appeal of my channel a lot of times. So, they're back. Anyway, let's go. Bye, everybody. Links below for stuff.